Betwabu, beautiful people. Betwabu. Betwabu, Betwabu, Betwabu. All right, Sawubona. Titi, Alicia, Sawubona. Y'all, we at Friday already. Okay, y'all. Today, we are on day 165. It is June the 5th, 2020. We are reading Isaiah 10, 11, and 12. That's Wabu. Wow, 12 is only 6 verses. All right, y'all, we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to point out something today that also people, if they're not familiar with the text and they just hear this, they will take some verses from the reading today and they will liken it to JC, but it's not. It's still talking about Israel. And when you're familiar with the text, you will understand when it gets to things like this, it's still talking about Israel. Like, you would never make the mistake of saying that this is JC if you're familiar with the text. There's just no way you could do that. But those who have not read the text and are not familiar with the text, when somebody teaches them that, they'll take that as gold. And it's not, y'all. It's not. All right. Isaiah chapter 10. I'll bring it out when we get to it so I can point it out. Isaiah chapter 10. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless. And what will ye do in the day of visitation, and the desolation which shall come from afar? And in the desolation which shall come from afar, to whom will ye flee to for help, and where will ye leave your glory? Without me they shall bow down under the prisoners, and they shall fall from under the slain. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. O Assyrian, the rod of my anger and the staff in their hand is mine indignation. I will send him against a hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath, which I give him a charge, to take the spoil and to take the prey and to tread them down like the mire in the streets. Remember, Yahuwah always... You can't hear me? Can anybody else hear me? Hello? Can anybody else hear me? Can you hear me? Somebody say something. Can you hear me? Titi, can you hear me now? Is it your headphones? Oh, you can hear? Okay. All right, so I won't start over. Okay, gotcha. All right. What was I saying? Okay, I was about to say, remember, like I told you before, when Yahuwah chastises the inhabitants of the earth, he always uses another nation to bring the chastisement. So you will hear him say, I will bring him from afar to do this, to do that. So pay attention to that, y'all. If you pay attention to those things, you can keep yourself within context and understand it without getting all discombobulated, okay? I'll read verse 5 again. O Assyrian, the rod of my anger, and the staff in their hand is my indignation. That's a perfect example of what I just said. I will send him against a hypocritical nation, and against the people of my wrath will I give him a charge, to take the spoil and to take the prey, and to tread them down like the mire in the streets. Howbeit, he meaneth not so, neither doth his heart think so, but in his heart to destroy and cut off nations, not a few. For he said, Are not my princes altogether kings? Is not Calno and Carchemish? Is not Hamath as Arpad? Is not Samaria as Damascus? As my hand hath found kingdoms of the idols, and whose graven images did excel them of Jerusalem and Samaria, shall I not, as I have done unto Samaria and unto her idols, so do to Jerusalem and her idols? Yahuwah said, I am not going to be discriminate to anybody. I will punish you, this nation, just like I punish my nation of people. And people have to realize, if we can remember this, Yahuwah has created all men. He set aside a certain nation of people who he invited to know him intimately. Ultimately, he wants all people to know him intimately, that they worship only him and know that he is the creator, and they are to go to him for information, and he'll teach them his ways. He set aside a group of people, which was the nation of Israel, which was Jacob and all of Jacob's 12 sons. Jacob had a daughter, but it's set out by the heads, the sons. So all 12, when you hear the 12 tribes of Israel, it means the 12 sons of Jacob. Remember, Jacob was renamed to Israel, and the tribes are his sons. I didn't want to get tongue tied. So remember, and also the name of the land, Israel, was first the name of a people, a name of a person. Remember, they renamed their land after themselves. So a lot of people don't get that. They're just thinking about land, but no, that land was first a people. So if we can remember all these things, it may take you a little bit just to make sure to get it in. You got to hear it a few times and read before it just clicks all the time, which is sometimes you got to sit and think, okay, wait a minute, so this. You may have to do that first, starting off just to keep connecting the pieces. Then it just becomes just like, oh yeah, yeah. And you'll be able to tell the story from the beginning to the end without flaw. Without hiccup. So Yahuwah chastises every nation. He's fair. He's not discriminatory of one people versus another people. And we read through here, we'll see he not only punished his people, but he also punished other nations as well. If we can see all that in context, we can see the overall everything that's going on. He wants all the world to walk in peace, in fairness, in righteousness. It doesn't matter what kingdom that you live in or what kingdom you live under. He just chose the nation of Israel to be like this sounds horrible because of what's happening today. I want to say, I was going to say the police force, but let's just say the judges of the nation, the ones who uphold the laws and that teach the laws, because that's what it really should be here. But that's the nation that Yahuwah chose out of the nations of all the world to teach all the other nations of the world. That's why Israel is to be a light set upon a hill. They are to be a light unto all the nations. They are to teach the righteous decrees. But because our ancestors were acting a goddamn fool, and some of us are still acting a fool today, we're being chastised just like the other nations are being chastised. Yahuwah is showing no favor to anybody, so okay. Verse 11, shall I not, as I have done unto Samaria and unto her idols, so do to Jerusalem and her idols? That's what he said. He said, I'm going to get you just like I got them. Everybody need to straighten up, tighten up. Wherefore it shall come to pass that when Yahuwah hath performed his whole work upon Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the kings of Assyria, and the glory of his high looks. For he said, by the strength of my hand I have done it, and by my wisdom, for I am prudent, and I have removed the bounds of the people, and have robbed their treasures, and I have put down the inhabitants like a valiant man. And my hand hath found as a nest the riches of the people, and as one gathered eggs that are left, have I gathered all the earth, and there was none that moved the wing, nor opened the mouth, or peeped. Shall the axe boast itself against him that heweth therewith? Or shall the saw magnify itself against him that shaketh it? As if the rod should shake itself against them that lift it up, or as if the staff should lift itself up, as if it were no wood. So it's pretty much, let me give you an example. It said the gun can't do anything without a person holding it. The saw can't do anything without a hand that holds it. So that's the example it was just given. I read that again. Verse 15. Shall the axe boast itself against him that heweth therewith? So the person can the axe do anything against the hand that holds the axe, that uses it to saw? Nothing. Okay. Shall the axe boast itself against him that heweth therewith? Or shall the saw magnify itself against him that shaketh it? Shall we magnify ourselves against Yah, the one who makes us? Never shall it be. As if the rod should shake itself against them that lift it up, or as if the staff should lift itself up, as if it were no wood. Therefore shall Yahuwah, the Lord of hosts, send among his fat ones leanness, and under his glory he shall kindle a burning like a burning of a fire, and the light of Israel shall be for a fire. and his Holy One for a flame, and it shall burn and devour his thorns and briars in one day, and shall consume the glory of his forest, and of his fruitful field, both soul and body, and they shall be as when a standard bearer fainteth. And the rest of the trees of his forest shall be few, that a child may write them. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel, and such as escape of the house of Jacob, shall no more gainstay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon Yahuwah, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto Almighty Yahuwah. For though thy people, Israel, be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return. The consumption decreed shall overflow with righteousness. For Yahuwah, the God of hosts, shall make a consumption, even determined in the midst of all the land. Therefore thus saith Yahuwah, the God of hosts, O my people that dwells in Zion, be not afraid of the Assyrian. He shall smite thee with a rod, and shall lift up his staff against thee, after the manner of Egypt. For yet a little while the indignation shall cease, and my anger in their destruction. So he brought Assyria against his people to chastise them, but he told them, don't be afraid, do what's right, and I'll be there with you. Turn back to me. It ain't gonna last too long. I'll lift my hand when my anger has ceased, and I chastise all you for doing what I told you not to do. Verse 26. I'll read 25 again. For yet a very little while, and the indignation shall cease, and my anger in their destruction. And Yahuwah of hosts shall stir up a scourge for him, according to the slaughter of Midian at the rock of Oreb. And as his rod was upon the sea, so shall he lift it up after the manner of Egypt. And it shall come to pass in that day that his burden shall be taken away from off thy shoulder, and his yoke from off thy neck. And the yoke shall be destroyed because of the anointing. And he is come to Aiath, he is passed to Migron at Michmash, and he has laid up his carriages. They are gone over the passage. They have taken up their lodging at Geba. Ramah is afraid. Gibeah of Saul is fled. Lift up thy voice, O daughter of Galim. Cause it to be heard unto Laish, O poor Anathoth. Madmenah is removed. The inhabitants of Gibeon gather themselves to flee. As yet shall he remain at Nob that day. He shall shake his hand against the mount of the daughter of Zion, the hill of Jerusalem. Behold, Yahuwah, the Lord of hosts, shall lop the bow with terror, and the high ones of stature shall be hewn down, and the haughty shall be humbled. And he shall cut down the thickets of the forest with iron, and Lebanon shall fall by the mighty one. All right, y'all, Isaiah chapter 11. Now, chapter 11 of Isaiah is what I was specifically talking about, where they take this out of context because they don't understand the text, and I know that they don't read it, because there's no way that you can get this. I can see the logic of how they explain it, but it's still talking about Israel. Remember, when Yahuwah refers to his son, he said, and if you go back to Exodus chapter 4, if you read Exodus chapter 4, there's a few examples even in that chapter when he was bringing them out. He was talking to Pharaoh. He said, listen, my firstborn son is Israel. And I believe that's Exodus 4 verse 22. My firstborn son is Israel. Let him go that he may worship me. We know Pharaoh refused. And he said, because you killed my firstborn son. Now, when he said firstborn son, who was he talking about? Was he talking about one person? Or was he talking about all the children of Israel who were in bondage currently under his rule? He was talking about all the children of Israel, all the children of Jacob, all the descendants of Jacob is his firstborn son. When he says Israel, he's referring to a nation of people. When he says Jacob, remember, Jacob had been dead and gone by now. Jacob was already sleeping with the fathers. He was already in the grave. So who was Yahuwah talking about? Whose cries did he hear? Jacob was already dead and in the grave. He was talking about the cries of his people, and he referred to his people Jacob. We could refer to, like our if somebody referred to us, they could call us by one name referring to all of us. They would probably use your last name to refer to the whole house. Murphy over here, so we'll know. All right, come on, y'all, let's go. He's talking about our entire house. So especially if we were in a gathering or something talking about us, I want Murphy and everybody under Murphy or whatever. You get what I'm saying, right? Okay, so at this time, he said, my My firstborn son is Israel. All them people that you held under bondage, who can, mind you, remember y'all, they were not in bondage the entire time they were in Egypt. They sojourned the land of Egypt 430 years, meaning the entire time that they were there. But half the time they were free because Joseph was still alive, and the current Pharaoh was still there. So, but when the current Pharaoh, who had seen the wonders of Yah, had heard the wisdom of Joseph, was there, Israel, the nation of Israel, got to live free. Matter of fact, the Pharaoh gave Israel the best portion of the land in Egypt when they came, which was Goshen. So they were living in the best portion. That's what Pharaoh told Joseph to do. He said, give them the best portion. You will see that when you go read. I forget exactly what verse it is. He said, give them the best portions of the land. 30. Okay. And so, when the new Pharaoh came in, and says he knew not who Joseph was, he began to look at all the people. Imagine, they had already been there 200-something years now. They had already been there. They weren't slaves. They weren't working on a hard labor. Everybody minded their own business. Everything was good in the land of Egypt. To this new Pharaoh, he decided to deal wisely with them. He said, listen, if we get an enemy coming up against us, they may side with our enemy and decide to join our enemy and take over us. So let us deal wisely with this people, and we'll keep our hand over them so that they'll always be under our control. And that's when the bondage started for them, and it got progressively worse over the years till the cries reached the ears of Yah, and he raised up a deliverer from within the midst of them, who was Moses, right? So, and if we understand all that, and we go through, we keep all that in mind when he says, my son, my chosen one, my servant. A lot of time when he says my servant, he's talking about the prophets, and it'll say my servants, the prophets. And a lot of places in him, look it up, my servants, the prophets. Google will give you scripture references for that. And the Old Testament is always talking about the prophets. Or if he's talking about somebody different, in that particular chapter, he will name that person, such and such, my servant, is my servant for this particular thing. He'll name it out like that. Right? Okay. So here in chapter 11, I gave you all that to let you know that it's the same thing here in chapter 11. And there shall come forth a rod from out of the stem of Jesse, a branch shall grow out of his roots, and the spirit of Yahuwah shall rest upon him, and the spirit of wisdom and understanding, and the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge of the fear of Yahuwah, and shall make him of quick understanding in the fear of Yahuwah. And he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither to reprove after the hearing of his ears, but with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with iniquity for the meek of the earth. And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall slay the wicked. And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. And so also, if we go to Psalms, and I wrote it down, quick note so I can tell you what was at Psalm 89, verses 3 through 4, Yahuwah says, when we think about who rules, somebody who descends from King David, he's talking about the righteous branch, those righteous whom he will set in place. Not one person, it's multiple people. Think about it, the world. How you got one president, you got one mayor? No, you have different states, cities, countries. Yahuwah is going to set the line, the righteous seed from King David over all these different provinces in all the continents, in all the world, down to the states, every place. Yes, girl. You gotta turn this down some. Okay, you go ahead and hold on 1 second. Guys, if you read it, it's just, you don't have to get super spiritual. It's common sense. Listen, I'm gonna send you upstairs, Bella. So, and that's what you do. There's a chain of command, and Yahuwah uses a chain of command. There's a chain of command with the heavenly hosts. Why wouldn't we use? That's where we get it from here on the earth. The enforcement, law enforcement, chain of command, military. Where do you think we get it from? We don't. For some reason, they seem to get us to believing in fairy tales, like something supernatural, spooky that we've never seen before is going to happen when Yahuwah has been telling us all along, right before our face. What are you trying to get, babe? It's not playing. There you go. Okay. And it's the same thing, y'all. It's the same exact thing. All right, I'll read 4 again. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor. I'm sorry, did I tell you what this was? Psalm 89, 3-4 is, I will establish your descendants as kings forever. And you can take that scripture reference and bring it back to here. Your descendants with an S as kings with an S forever. Right? So, like I said, if we understand this, guys, we can piece it all together. Although they have it scattered around all the places, when you read it enough, you're able to put the pieces together. You're able to put the scriptures. Oh, that goes. See, that's supposed to go here. Why they put it all the way back there? You see what I'm saying? So that's why we're reading it out loud, so you can hear it out loud, and I can help you kind of walk through it. Not like directly, but I'm pointing out different ones. If you look over here and see, let's go back and read the story. See how that lines up? See, oh yeah, that is the same time. A lot of time, if you don't read it enough, you're not able to put it together like that. I've learned how to do this over the last couple of years, just simply by reading and listening to it literally all the time. Like, I got the Bible playing in my ears when I'm cleaning or when I'm working. That's why, that's why I'm able, like, wait a minute, hold on, I heard that. Hold on, now let me put both of these together. Let me read this and read it. Wait a minute. So these are the same characters over here. What's the same time? It's literally a puzzle, guys, and the pieces have been scattered around. And that we're coming together so we can put the pieces together. I don't know everything. I'm still learning. So I will listen to people when they say, sis, wait a minute, but what about, oh, you got a point there. Let me look into that. So I've learned to quiet myself down and listen to different people and their opinions and stuff, because I may not always be right, y'all. All right. And the righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and the faithfulness the girdle of his reins. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and the little child shall lead them, and the cow and the bear shall feed their young ones. Their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox, and the sucking child shall play on the Right, hold on. Think about something, y'all. How this goes back to the sacrifices, because that's something that kept eating. I was like, Father, there's something else to these sacrifices and stuff. So I started learning, okay, it's a cookout, they cleaning meat and all this stuff. But listen, okay, so over in the state of Israel, overseas in Jerusalem, where everybody thinking is the real people, but it's not. Okay, you see what they doing over there, building the temple, and they talking about reinstituting the sacrifices and stuff, and how they pull out things in Ezekiel about the building of the new temple and all this stuff. But it says in verse 7 over here, when it talks about this, he said, they shall neither hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of knowledge of Yahuwah as the waters cover the sea. And it talk about the cow and their young ones, because they sacrifice cows, right? They even sacrifice cows and bulls and goats unto Yah. But it says here that no one will hurt in all my holy mountain. So what pieces of the puzzle are we missing? Because Yahuwah said we're not going to be doing that, yet you're still trying to reinstitute the sacrifices. You're getting the looking for the red unblemished heifer. Something ain't right, y'all. And it's things like this, like if we don't pay attention to it, it seems to just it go past. So you're reinstituting this temple over here to start sacrifices. Why? When Yahuwah said when it's rebuilt and all this stuff, if you read it all in context, that nothing will hurt in all this holy mountain. It's things like this, y'all. If you don't pay attention to it, it's just like you just kind of keep going with the flow and you miss what's sitting right in front of your face. All right. I'll read it 5 again. And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them, and the cow and the bear shall feed their young. I keep putting it together. And the cow and the bear shall feed. Their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. And the sucking child shall play on the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of Yahuwah as the waters cover the sea. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, a remnant of Jesse. Who is Jesse? King David's father. Up here he said a righteous branch from King David, which is talking about the remnant of his people, his descendants, who will reign as kings forever. This is that root of Jesse. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign to the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahuwah shall set his hand again, the second time, to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea, which includes the Caribbean and the United States, all this stuff over here. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and they shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, us, the black folk. Why, the whole reason why this protest is going on now. And gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. The envy of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim, but they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines toward the west. They shall spoil them of the east together. They shall lay their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. And Yahuwah shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea with his mighty wind. He shall shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in the seven streams, to make men go over dry shod. That says that remember how he split the Red Sea and how he split the River Jordan? He said he's going to do that a second time. Matter of fact, Elisha was able to part waters as well with his cloak. Pop, the waters parted. That was done a few times if y'all didn't know. He said, but I am going to smite the rivers again, so that men may walk over dry shod, so they can walk over dry land again. We have not seen that yet. And he said, I'm going to recover them a second time, meaning that this is saying that there is going to be a second exodus of Yahuwah's people from out of the nations where he scattered them so they could go back home. That's what he said. We ain't seen it yet. But we sure do right now see Ephraim and Judah coming together. He said, they will no longer envy. You know the disunity among our people? He said there's no longer going to be any disunity. He said they're going to join together as one stick. I'll read that again. 13. The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim, but they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines toward the west. They shall spoil them on the east together. They shall lay their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. And Yahuwah shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea, and with his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in its seven streams, to make men go over dry shod. And there shall be a highway. See? So men can walk over. There shall be a highway for the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, like as it was to Israel in the day when he came up out of the land of Egypt. So it's not talking about that. He said, like when they came up out of the land of Egypt. So there's a second exodus that's going to take place, people. Last chapter for today, Isaiah chapter 12. It is only 6 verses. And in that day, thou shalt say, O Yahuwah, I will praise thee. Though thou was angry with us, thy anger is turned away, and thou comfort us. Behold, Yahuwah is our salvation. I will trust, and I will not be afraid, for Yahuwah, Jehovah, it says Jehovah, but we know that doesn't say Jehovah. For Yahuwah is my strength and my song. He also is become my salvation. Therefore with joy shall ye draw water out of the wells of salvation. And in that day ye shall say, praise Yahuwah, call upon his name, declare his doings among the people, make mention that his name is exalted. See how Yahuwah always talks about his own name? Yahuwah only always talks about his own name. Pay attention to that. Sing unto Yahuwah. I'll read 4 again. And in that day they shall say, praise Yahuwah, call upon his name, declare his doings among the people, make mention that his name, whose name? Yahuwah's name. Make mention that Yahuwah's name is exalted. Sing unto Yahuwah, for he has done excellent things. This is known in all the earth. Cry out and shout, thou inhabitant of Zion, for great is the Holy One of Israel in the midst of thee. And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. That was Isaiah 10, 11, and 12. It is day 165 of reading through the books of instruction and the prophets, or the law given unto Yahuwah's people from him directly through the prophets, through Moses, through the prophets. And he reiterates, he teaches us. Now we got it canonized in the book. They didn't took some stuff out, but we can get along. We can get on with it. It is June the 5th, 2020, Friday. Remember, the Sabbath with the new moon, remember it came on the Saturday, so the Sabbath shifts back to Saturday. So tomorrow, my beautiful people, we will not be here. I will see you bright and early on Sunday morning. So let's go ahead and do this blessing, which we all know is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise you shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name, there you go again. Yahuwah said, they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Not somebody else gonna come bless them when you say somebody else's name. He said, put my name upon my people, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people, I love you, and I will see y'all bright and early Sunday morning. Sundays, we do it 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.